Yo, welcome back. It's the first rebrand show. I went from challenging expectations, and one day I came up with an idea. I was like, you know what? I need something harder, right? Something that could hit you in the face. And what I came up with was invisible to unequivocal, because I think the word unequivocal means to make it make sense and for it to be good in all areas. So this is what I'm going to do. So this episode, we're going to talk about peeling the layers, my frustration with Binh from Married at First Sight. You know, ever since I've been stuck at the house due to my Achilles surgery, it has given me time to take a look at a lot of shows. And one show specifically that caught my eye was Married at First Sight Season 15, San Diego. It captivated me not because I live here, but because I saw art imitating life. And that is the Asian man being partnered up with a fiery woman. You know, something you should know about me is that I'm an equal opportunity dater. And fiery women from every culture is by far the most that I've been attracted to. So when I saw Binh and Morgan appear on the show, and the fact that it's been filmed, or it was filmed here a couple of years ago in San Diego, man, I was so hyped. So hyped that I forgot all about my foot pain until about episode 6. You know, the things that I like about Binh, you know, he was athletic, muscular, homie had 2 degrees, you know, he's a mathlete. You know what a mathlete is a guy that's really smart at math, but at the same time is also good at sports and an athlete. Like, to me, that's like the best of both worlds, especially as an Asian guy. You know, we even had the same haircut. Yeah, I had that, you know, that side part where the right side of the part had like a big bunch of hair, and the left side of the part was almost like a fade. Yeah, I had that same one. He also loved basketball, which was also a passion of mine. So I feel incredibly connected to him. I mean, shit, man, I wish I had friends like that everywhere I went. He also had like a great smile. He was frugal, which I could respect. Plus, I mean, if you come from nothing, it's only natural to continue that Spartan lifestyle. Plus, when you live in San Diego by the water on a high rise, you don't really need AC. So I was feeling him on that. He focused a lot on his financial security at age 29, which to me, I was lucky enough to figure that out at age 18, but only through a mentor. So I was feeling that. He doesn't do bottle service, doesn't party often. You know, same with me, man. Like, I am a social drinker, and if you go to my fridge, you don't find any alcohol. It's just water, Gatorade, and Pedialyte. You know, and I don't spend all my money partying. I mean, I only have so much, you know, battery in my social life for things that, you know, to be honest with you, I can only do really once a month. And the best thing that I loved about him is that he had this healthy sense of idealism when it comes to love and romance, which is a big deal, especially in the world that we live in now. And when it comes to like, you know, like dating apps, I mean, you have to drudge through, you know, a lot of fishes before you can find your you know, your orca or your dolphin, right? But the further, you know, I'll watch the show, a couple of things did raise an eyebrow to me, I'm gonna be honest. He labeled himself as a mama's boy. To me, that wouldn't be, if I was on a show, that would not be the first thing I'm gonna do. You know, like there's a connotation to that, especially if you're a self-proclaimed mama's boy. He was being too frugal sometimes in his explanations, and even his friends was telling him he was a little bit too cheap. Like, man, I mean, this is San Diego, man. This is the most expensive place in America to live. Like, going to the beach is going to cost at least $20. You know what I'm saying? And if we lived in Kansas, I mean, we could just go watch a tornado to get it for free. You know, but here, you lose money just walking out the door. He was also very rigid in his previous relationships. You know, like, he's very open to the fact that he got cheated on, and, you know, he he called his ex-girlfriend Voldemort. You know, and sometimes, you know, when it comes to money and being cheap and being Spartan in his rigidity, when it comes to spending money, you know, to either for gifts or dinners, like, that definitely could throw a wrench, especially out here. I mean, these Southern California chicks are a little bit different. He talked a lot about his mom, but he never really talked about his pops. So that to me was just kind of like, not a red flag, but kind of like a, you know, like a purpley magenta colored flag. So I was just kind of like, you know what? I'm just going to let it ride out. And maybe that's just me overthinking. But the more I watch this show, man, you should look up on YouTube Binh, B-I, think it's H-N or Binh and Morgan, MAFS, and you'll see this goddamn train wreck. That's like the first video. And it's freaking crazy. So where my problems began was his communications issues. Like keeping things in-house, man. Like, I'm just going to assume you watched all the clips before you continue listening. So I'm just going to assume you already watched it. All right. So if any issues arise in any type of relationship, whether it's teammates, boyfriend or girlfriend, or whether it's your book club, right? You must be able to communicate directly, and you have to do it outside of anybody's purview. Especially in this specific environment where it's just strangers one day, next thing you know, you're married, right? So you're still learning. So if you have a problem with someone, especially if they're on your team, like you got to talk that shit out in-house, man. You don't air out your dirty laundry to other people. You know, the fact that he talked to another contestant of the show rather than his actual friends to me was like, oh boy, like this is a problem, you know, like you have to protect yours, especially if you have like a partner that has this very specific issue, especially about trust. You know, like those other contestants ain't your fucking friends, man. They just, you know, they low key competitors. You get what I'm saying? Like you don't know them from fucking Adam until like a week ago. So why go talk to them? Why don't you talk to your real friends who has, you know, your best interest at heart? Now, the other thing was his inability to own up to misunderstandings directly. And he left a lot of stones unturned. So, like, if I fuck up or misread something, right, I learned from past experiences that I have to own up to that shit directly and with finality. What I mean by that is being upfront with who I had that misunderstanding with by expressing my point of view, listening to theirs, right? Expressing how I dealt with it incorrectly, and then lay out future plans and actions that would lead to minimizing the same mistake. And then I'm going to do everything that I can to make up for that mistake and for that misunderstanding by either dinner, flowers, chocolates, like something. You know what I mean? Like, you know, they call that shit accountability nowadays. And some people might not know the word, but they don't know what that truly means, right? You got to keep everything level, right? Taking that L, right? Taking that punch in the face, right? Doing something to make up for it and then moving on. Especially with a woman that you want to do right by, right? Especially when they're throwing all these expectations at you from the very beginning, right? You had the same thing that you want in a partner and you fall short of that expectations. Be like, you know what? I fucked it up. Let me hear, talk to me about your feelings. Talk to me about your opinions. This is the way I'm going to fix it. And I ain't going to fuck it up. And you know what? Like, we're going to go to your favorite movie. Or, you know what? We're going to go for your favorite restaurant. We're going to dress up. You know, we're going to look nice. I'm going to buy you some cheesecake from Cheesecake Factory. Like, whatever, you know? And I do that by having direct eye contact, right? Physical touch, being final with my words, finality, and making not just an honest effort, but it's like, I'm going to go full blown on this because I know that this is important to that other person. Like, if my responsibility as a man is to provide security for a woman, part of that security comes from my ability to reassure that woman who I'm protecting, not just in a physical way, but more importantly, an emotional way. Right? So those little things, right? Those little problems, you know, that were coming up on the episodes. Though further I watched more episodes, this is where he really frustrated me as an Asian man, right? And number one was he was lacking leadership skills. Like, just because you're single and independent doesn't mean you know how to deal with independent people. It takes a certain type of man to wrangle independent women. What I mean by that is this. You're being measured by your ability to manage your partner's emotional expectations while maintaining trust and still bringing something new to the table. And along with providing those challenges, right, you still have to follow through with your actions. Like, check this out. Like, remember those movies where someone had to tame like a wild horse? And a hero walks up to the horse and he gets all these warnings from the people all around the barn, right? Or the stable or like the carnival, stating that the horse is unstable, or he broke the last guy's neck who got in there with him, or got kicked in the face, etc. And then all of a sudden, the hero steps up to the horse, touches it, soothes it, talks to it, calms it down, and finally climbs onto it. Next thing you know, he's walking with the horse now. He's like galloping with the horse, right? And everybody looks up at him like he's some kind of horse whisperer. But what they don't show you were all those other times where he got bucked off the horse or got kicked in the stomach by the horse. Like, the audience has never shown the hero's failures and the many times it never worked out. Only through enough practice and learning from those failures can the hero gain the confidence to get it right the first time in front of his new surroundings. But Binh never had those experiences coming into the show. He didn't have the leadership skills to manage those expectations, especially from a woman that's already full of fire. And I'll be the one to say it. Independent women are the way they are, specifically at the age of like 29 to like 37, is because they've been on the ass end of men who fell short of those expectations, probably more than once, and more likely in Morgan's case, more than one man. So think about that. Like, the second thing is that he lacked courage to stand up for himself, right? He was a lamb pretending to be a lion. So whether it's on YouTube or TikTok, I've always had problems with people who try to give Asian guys advice on finding love. Specifically, giving advice like going to the gym and getting muscles without giving it context. They make it sound like all you have to do is eat like a can of spinach, and in some magical way, the skinny, shy Asian guy becomes like a sexual tyrannosaur. And then, boom, happily ever after, right in the sense that that's it, the end. But not in this case. You know, I used to teach at a leadership school up in D.C., and I've always asked the guys who lean on their physical abilities too much and try to lord it to other people. Like, you know those dudes, man. Like the super meatheads who threaten you with violence or make fun of you because, you know, just because you can't bench 225. Hot take, I could bench 225. But, you know, when they become problematic in these big group settings, right, I ask them specifically, it's like, dude, if I take away those muscles, who are you? And I found out that question, that, you know, the answer to that specific question in Binh's situation when Morgan ate his ass up. Now, homie looked so shook that he couldn't even get a word in. Like, he had no plan to get his girl back and to ease the situation. And it showed painfully. It's like seeing your favorite fighter in the ring getting the shit beat out of him, right? You yell at the TV like, move, motherfucker, protect yourself at all times, right? Uppercut, uppercut, swing, swing, right? Insert that Rocky clip. Throw in the towel. Throw in the towel. You know, I was yelling at the top of my lungs when I saw Binh taking those goddamn haymakers. And I was yelling at the TV screen. I was like, tie her up, dog. Like, put your arms around her, man. Just lean on her. You know, so you could just stop eating these emotional uppercuts and emotional body hooks. And man, you don't know how meaningful that is for a fighter's survival, to stop that momentum. You know, for Binh, like grabbing Morgan and just hugging her, right? And just giving the opportunity to smother that fire before it goes out of control. You know, but his lack of awareness of the situation only added gas to an already flammable partner. You know, and then as an Asian man watching this, that shit hurt me. Not because Binh was totally lost, but because the optics of Asian guys in the modern relationships and modern dating were beyond bad. I asked myself, like, man, you know how many women watch this fucking show? Almost all of them. This is like one of those super guilty pleasures that every woman, at least that I knew, were aware of and watch fucking religiously. How do I know? Because I asked them. And every time I mentioned, hey, remember Binh from San Diego season 15? Dude, oh gosh, I can't even say the word, man. The contortions of their face. And that look of that cringe. And even, it's like another level of cringe. It's like, remember when you were watching pro wrestling back in the day, right? And you see like Mankind taking them chair shots. I'm talking about like 1998 to like 2002 WWE. right? Where he's just like, you hear that snap of that chair, like plop, chair shot, right? And Mankind is like, oh, and then plop, and another chair shot, and he's dangling again. And next thing you know, somebody's like, clack, clack, clack. That was the look, and that was the emotion that I was feeling from those women, man, just watching this fucking train wreck happen. It's like chair shot after chair shot after chair shot. And man, my Latino friends were like the most unforgiving. And like I became Binh, right? Because they look at me and I look kind of like that motherfucker. And I keep hearing this shit, man, like that Chinito had it coming. And I look at I was like, God damn, man. And I look at like the moms, right? And the tias that are watching the show, like this shit's fucking the Super Bowl. And like, I see all the old senoras, man. They're just like nodding their heads down and shaking their heads in like disgust. Like, bro, like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Have you ever been like generationally disappointed? That's what I felt like. Like I was getting clowned by like 3 generations of women who were like by their culture supposed to be really strong. And then the question in my head was like, because due to the popularity of the show, was like, what is the reality for Asian dudes now? You know what I mean? Especially in these like, I'm an independent who don't need no man times that we live in. You know what I mean? Like, how many women have seen this train wreck, right? And what are they gonna think now that they've seen this shit happen to the next Asian dudes that's gonna step to them? Like one side of me saying it's like, oh man, it's just a fucking show, right? Like people know better when it comes to real life. But man, like, bro, like this is San Diego. You are competing with everybody around here, man. That dude is a dead man walking. You know what I mean? Like, a question that I recently asked all my friends, right? Both, you know what I mean? Like my homegirls that I know, the coworkers that I had, I was like, man, just watching everything that just went down, right? If you see him on a dating app, would you swipe on him as a realistic, potential partner, and not just asking him like, yo dog, like how do I get on Married at First Sight? Or, outside of anything affecting the show. The answer that I got was an overwhelming no. And not because he wasn't good looking. Like, it wasn't because he wasn't a good guy. But the women saw under the curtains the reality of what every Asian man is trying to fight against. And that is the negative stereotypes about Asian masculinity was absolutely fucking correct watching the show. Let me say that again. They saw under the curtains the reality of what every Asian man is trying to fight against. And that is the negative stereotypes about Asian masculinity that they saw was absolutely fucking correct based on Binh's actions. And let's talk about those actions, right? The fight or flight response that he had when he was getting fucking ate up. Right. Now, I understand people, like now after the show's over, people were giving him props for keeping his cool and making Morgan to look like she's the devil. Right. But I think they confuse his calmness with the third and sometimes most unknown fight or flight response, and that is freeze. Right. He was unable to act or move against the verbal bombs, the verbal haymakers, right, that Morgan was throwing at him, especially when he gave her the roses and this bitch just fucking dropped that shit on the ground. I was like, bro, it was like, your arms are too thick to be not holding roses up like that. But I get what she was doing, right? The fact that he was getting cut off and he had those deer in the headlight looks on his face while he was taking them hits. And like, man, the producers weren't helping him. We were just like, yo, cut, there's something in your face. And it's on like multiple like camera cuts. Like, bro, that's like time out on this argument. Wipe that shit off your face. Wipe off your lip. Right, and then continue to bash in this dude. So at least he looks good at the camera while he's taking it. And then he transitions to the fourth response to fight or flight, which is fawning. Okay, fawning is like the immediate action of pleasing your verbal assaulter, for lack of better terms, in order to avoid further conflict. Like, he doesn't portray himself as a man who can take control of a misunderstanding, but rather he showed his true colors as someone who doesn't know how to make things right. He doesn't know what to do. to like calm the fire down. Like, I look at it and I was like, God damn, dude, like what the fuck? But the other side of my mind, like I halfway don't blame him. Because these actions are supposed to be taught, right? Not learned in the heat of battle. But goddamn, man, like that shit was a hell of a way to learn. To me, Morgan's response to his fawning was probably the most cringe-inducing when she said, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to sit down with you unless you own up to your own shit. This is ridiculous, and this is embarrassing. And I couldn't agree more. To me, that's the shit that hurts the most. Because he's getting talked to like a little fucking kid. And I see Morgan fighting against what she sees as another man that she has to endure. Where the point of the show, or the point of her being in the show, is to stop the carousel of men who aren't strong enough or mature enough to handle these types of situations. Who can't handle the attitude, who don't have it in their arsenal, not to control, but to understand the situation that they're in. To understand the misunderstanding, right, and deal with it and be accountable for it. Not by somebody's like coercing or pushing, but because they found out themselves. And I understand her pain, like I see it in her eyes, man. It's like the walls are closing in, bro. Right? And she's doing everything she can to stop the inevitable. Like furthermore, I think there's like, because he grew up as a mama's boy, he doesn't have an understanding between a mother's love and a woman's love. Like a mother's love is unconditional, right? From birth to death. But a woman's love, as in friend, girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, right? Like that love has to be earned. And talking down that he received, like sealed the deal for me. Because that the respect is gone. And that shit ain't gonna get no better. Because one partner will always walk on eggshells while the other partner will always be reprimanding the other. And it's a perfect definition of a toxic relationship. So here's my final thoughts. I won't bore you with the rest of the clips, right? Because you probably already watched it, right? But as much as I criticized Binh, I wanted him to win. Like, I wanted the Asian man to win. Like, there's not enough content on TV to properly prepare the younger cats for these kinds of beatings. And though we take those same emotional beatdowns in our own failed relationships, like, it's never open to the public to see and the internet to keep. So don't take what I say as mere bashing of Binh or punching down on the guy, but take it as a lesson that it takes more than just a gym, a haircut, or concentrating on making money in order to get the Asian man to dig himself out of the hole that he's built by not contextualizing his place in the dating world. Like the Asian man has to find, build, and maintain his masculinity and express it for everyone to see. And that masculinity has to be tempered with his ability to be self-aware, his ability to communicate properly and directly, so his voice can come off clear and complete and be mutually understood. He has to have the ability to charge the situation and be accountable for his fuck-ups. Like without this, we as Asian men are doomed to further slide down the totem pole of romantic irrelevance that we are barely clinging on to now. So that's it, man. My name is Marcus. Welcome to the rebranded show, Invisible to Unequivocal. Yo, check me out on the YouTube channel. Check me out on TikTok. Right? Check me out on Instagram. Right? Invisible to number 2 to Unequivocal. All right, man. I'll see you on the next show. Peace.